welcome back everyone. First of all, I want to apologize for my appearance. As some of you may know, it is getting to that lovely cold time of year here in New York, and unfortunately we don't have any heat at the moment, so I am just trying my hardest to stay warm. So in the meantime, I want to tell you about a system that I have that I really love, and I think sometimes it's overlooked as kind of an oddity in the world of game systems and whatnot, and that is the Fairchild Channel F. Now, it was released in 1976 by Fairchild Semiconductor, and they were really one of the first pioneers of the integrated circuit. They were the first ones to really be able to make it at a low cost so that they could make a profit from it. Now, it also has a distinction of being the first system to use interchangeable Rom carts, and those look like this right here. Now, some of you may have a complaint and may say, no, that's not true. It was actually the Magnavox Odyssey, and it does have little interchangeable cards, but there's not actually any information stored on those. These actually have the games on them. The cards for the Odyssey actually sort of rerouted some of the internal signals so that it could change the games up a little bit. So here's a quick look at what some of the boxes and the carts look like. Now you can see they're all numbered, and there were 26 commercial releases. There was also a demo cart that was released, and then I've got two independent ones up here, which I'll get to in just a second. Again, the artwork on these I think is really great. You may notice that some of them have picture labels and some have text labels. I can show you, I have a couple of extra copies of number 1 here, so you can see both the picture and text labels. So they actually released both versions of the cart for each of the numbered releases. But I think the artwork certainly sort of evokes the 70s, and I think that's a great sort of charming point of the system. Now up here, what I have are two carts that were made recently. These were actually made last year, 2010. This first one here is the multi-cart, and this actually has all of the games that were ever released for the Fairchild all on a single cart. And it also has a few homebrew games. It has the Pac-Man that I have up here. It also has a homebrew version of Tetris and a couple of different extra sort of goodies on there too. Now this Pac-Man that I have here is labeled as video cart number 27. This is another homebrew game, and I think this one is incredibly well done, and I will do a separate review of this. Now this machine only comes with 64 bytes of RAM. Not kilobytes, 64 bytes, which is actually half of what the Atari 2600 was originally shipped with. So it's a pretty slow-moving processor. Also, you were only had 4 background colors and 3 foreground colors available. The foreground colors were red, green, and blue. And then if your background was set to black, then the foreground would automatically be white. So this does limit the look of the games, but it also, I think, gives the games a very unique and distinct look. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at the system itself. Here's the Model 1 system, and you can see we put our cartridge in over on the right here, and there's also an eject button. It doesn't really eject it all the way, it just pushes out part way, and then you can remove it the rest of the way. Then we also have different buttons. We have our reset button, and then these are different option buttons, and some of those will come up in different games. You'll have different options for play. Now underneath this plastic cover here is where you store your controllers. Now one thing that a lot of people don't like about this system, the controllers, your RF out, and your what am I trying to say? Your AC adapter are all hardwired to the system itself. So if something breaks, then that does present a problem. But these controllers, I think, are really interesting, and there really aren't controllers like this for any other system. You can see that they're, maybe not. You can see that they're labeled left and right, And there are no actual buttons or anything. You just hold the controller with one hand, and then you can move. It's an 8-way joystick, but then you can also turn the top of the controller left and right, and so that gives you kind of a paddle action. But then you can also push the top of the controller in and you can pull it out, so that becomes like sort of your two buttons. So I think this is a really interesting controller design, and the way they utilized it in some of the games is actually really fantastic. So I also think that the wood grain look, sort of like on the Atari 2600, is also a really nice touch to this system. The sound is another interesting aspect of this machine. Now, in the Model 1 Channel F, the sound actually comes from an internal speaker built into the machine. Now, they, I guess, fixed that, if you want to say, in the Model 2 by having the sound run through the RF modulator, and the sound would come out your TV then. Now, the machine was only capable of producing 3 pitches. You had 500 hertz, 1 kilohertz, and 1.5 kilohertz. And that roughly gives you a C. It's actually between B and C. Then you get an octave higher than that, C, and then a G, a fifth above that. So these were the only 3 tones that you could get out of this machine. Now, if you wanted another sound, you could quickly modulate between those 3 pitches to get sort of a combined sound, and you would end up with a different pitch. But it's very hard to do, and it's kind of it gives it that very sort of Stone Age sound of some of these earlier consoles. But I think it adds a little bit of charm to the machine as well. Late in the life of the console, they released the Channel F System 2, and this was supposed to be a more updated look. You notice there's a lot more black on this. There is a little bit of wood grain kind of on the side here, but for the most part, you have kind of a black looking system. Honestly, I prefer the wood grain, but maybe that's just me. There are a few other changes. It's a little bit smaller. Also, you may notice here that the controllers are actually removable, so that's kind of a nice feature. If you have a controller go out, then you don't necessarily have to throw the whole console away. However, the power source is still hardwired to the system, so that can be a problem. Also, I don't think I mentioned this when I was talking about the Model 1, but on that one, the power button is actually in the back, the little power switch. On this one, they've moved it to the front, and then you have your same reset and your 4 selection buttons. Then you also have your cartridge slot here, and the eject button has been moved to the top on this one. So that was a quick look at the Fairchild Channel F. It holds a special place for me, I think, and I think it's an often overlooked system. I think it's a lot better than people say it is, and there's a lot of really fun, really kind of quirky games for this system. So in any case, if you're thinking about picking up one of these for yourself, you might look on eBay, you might look on one of the other auction sites. They're not terribly expensive. So I hope you enjoyed this, and until next time, stay warm.